Hey everybody, it's Mike from the Mike Wagner Show, powered by SoundCloud Studios, brought to you by official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Molson Missing, available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Coming soon, Missing 2 by Mia Molson, double suspense, double the fun. Check it out on Amazon. Also, Mike Wagner Show is brought to you by A Sweet Psalmist by Serena Wagner, based on the life of David through the Psalms he wrote. Is Thomas the Shepherd. Check it out on Amazon. Keyword Sweet Psalmist Serena Wagner. Also brought to you by the Sensei of Swing, Eric Diamond, with his latest release, All of Me, featuring the title track. Coming soon to your favorite platform near you, ericdiamondmusic.com. We're here with a terrific gentleman who basically is an author and distinguished economist and biotech expert who turned his expertise into fiction writing. He worked 30 years in assisting foreign governments with healthcare policies in Europe, South America, Africa, and Asia. Also, he founded a NASDAQ biotech company and specialized in merging nation pandemic and economic diseases. We'll talk about that. Featured in the Wall Street Journal and recognized by the DX Health Care Awards. And he has a new book, which takes place in 2030, where an innovative super agri-seed offers hope against growing food insecurity driven by climate change. The book is called The Seed Sanctuary. Live, ladies and gentlemen, the Plus Studios in beautiful downtown North Miami Beach, just taking a little sun. And he kind of looks like Jimmy Buffett right now. Author, distinguished economic and biotech expert who turned his expertise to fiction writing. We'll talk about The Seed Sanctuary, ladies and gentlemen, the multi-talented Ken Peters. Ken, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me on your show. I really appreciate it. And I did a lot of, Googling and looked at it. I said, oh, this looks very good. I'm very happy that they got me here.
Well, it's great to have you on the show as well, too, and looking forward to it. You're an author, distinguished economist, and biotech expert, turned his expertise to fiction writing. You worked 30 years assisting foreign governments with healthcare policies in Europe, South America, Africa, and Asia. You founded a NASDAQ biotech company specialized in merging nation pandemic and economic diseases. You have a new book, which takes place in 2030, where an innovative super agri-seed offers hope against growing food insecurity driven by climate change. And of course, you have a book that's called The Seed Sanctuary and what's this about and everything. And also, you also have a little policy we follow in terms of a seed. Before getting all that, Ken, tell us how you first got started.
I'm sorry, say what again?
I said, tell us how you first got started.
Oh, well.
Way back, Sherman, way back.
Way back. I my last out when I was living overseas. First off, I just will begin by saying that once I got into the corporate world, I got to the most lowliest position you could get to in places that were not the best place, very poor, very poor. In any event, I started living this world, and at that time, starting in '79, there wasn't any international communication whatsoever, and I've been in many, airports and seen things where the front nose wheel pops down and everyone's got to leave and go back to the hotel, and then when's the next plane? 2 days, and I started reading, and I was not a reader as a child. I came from a single family home, and my father was a busy working man, and it occupied my time. Sometimes you'd be 6, 8 hours in the airport till they finally said, there'll be no plane, go home, go to your hotel. Go back, you rebook. So you get back there, and I'm looking for things, and the first book that really caught my attention, not just that book, but Michener. Michener was such a fantastic writer in terms of when Anthony Morrow, the literary agent, says, what I love about your work most is it's very organic. And that's how I felt about Michener. Michener was somebody who interwove fiction with a lot about history and what was going on in these countries. So my first 10 years was doing a lot of reading. I became a big Ludlum fan, a big Follett fan. Some of my people that follow me say I write like Follett. Whatever it is, during that time, that 10 years in, if I may use the word, it's impolite, emerging markets, not third world. And I read an enormous amount all the time, Wilbur Smith, and there were just so many people uh, sort of chronicled. And I said, wow. And I was living at that time, before I get to the seed sanctuary, a brief overview that this was I wrote a book called Offshore. It was a little idea I had. I was sort of enraged at what had happened with Sodom, and that at one time, I'm a political history person too. At one time, we were giving this guy chemical weapons, and
I
he's our best friend.
remember that. Yes, yes.
Yeah. And we were doing the smart thing in the sense that, your enemy's your best enemy when their enemy is your enemy. And so we kept them at war together. And as I played with this book, and I didn't do much with it, and I came back, and when I got back to the States, I had the last out was Africa. And a friend of mine was a big reader of Daniel Silver and other types of thrillers. And he said, Peters, you got a way to tell stories. You need to write books. I said, really? And he said, really? So anyway, The Cure, basically what I had there before I go to the Seed Sanctuary, is pretty quick. I arrived in this country where apartheid was over. There was a lot of reverse racism. The company, when I moved to South Africa, I was going through a life change, and I said I can work from here to the corporate office in New York. And I saw the theft from the new government that took over, and everyone was poor, nothing had changed, and the only thing was is those people that were at the top were horse farms. What you have it. So I occasionally have been in a pub or a bar, and I in Johannesburg, and I would hear this vitriol regarding they've lost everything.
Mm.
And at any rate, to sort of cliff notes it down, I decided to myself, wow. And because at that time we were working with the National Institute of Virology in Johannesburg, and Fauci was there. I had a couple of interviews. People asked me, I said, tell me about your favorite thing. I said, there's so much you can't encapsulate it. But we were staying at this guest house, and I got to chat with Fauci a couple of times. And guy was a very honest guy. He was a bureaucrat, but a lot of people want to throw stones at him. So be it may, so may it be. But I spent 2 nights chatting with him, and I thought he was a very amicable fellow who only cared about healthcare. At any rate, he was telling me about they work on a vaccine, and I said to myself, "Well, tell me more of this and that." Of course, the vaccine never came to be, but obviously we're at a point with AIDS drugs today that you can get a shot every 2 months, so a pretty
Or,
stable situation.
or nowadays, a shot every month, a shot every day.
Yeah,
Next thing you know,
yes,
it'll be like
something
a
like
shot
that.
a
Yeah.
minute. You never know.
Yeah, something like that. But all the pills were all gone. At any rate, I started thinking the whole what if mindset, that what if they did develop a vaccine? And what if the Europeans, who wanted all their assets from the 19th century back, and they infiltrated and found out about this, and about the WHO is actually announcing it, and they decided to hire a team of mercenaries, what do you want to call? One of the persons on the team was a biotech geneticist, and they break into this facility and they think that they're just stealing the formula so that they could be the second in the market. And in fact, what they were doing was they're contaminating. As some of the players in the mercenary team died, and he got to catch some of this and read papers, he said, "Oh my God, I'm next." And so he went into hiding. He met some girl. Of course, every book I write always has a love thing in there. I'm a bit of a romanticist. At any rate, he wants to scream to the world. And I use, by the way, in the book, the formula from, I think it's Richard Bevins, who was the one accused of the anthrax, etc. So I sort of took part of his being and what happened to him. Today he's committed suicide. He's divorced, but I got divorced. Now he's dead. So I put that story flavor in there. So I was always looking at real life things that could be applied to something that would make the story really exciting. So
Hmm.
he's hiding out in Uganda with this girl, and he's trying to get out of there. And they want to tell the world Now here I'm bringing in the Dan Brown book, where everyone's trying to shut him up because they want the vaccine to go out and people going through the death throes in 60 days. And of course, knowing Africa, the wealthiest will be the first ones to put it in my arm first. So he's trying to tell the world, and obviously, the end. I won't spoil the end of the story, but he does get the word out. So
Mhm.
anyway, going to the seed sanctuary. So all my books, and this is what Anthony Morrow, the literary agent that I hired, he says, "What I love, Ken, is everything is so raw and so organic." So the seed sanctuary. I noticed my students, I was teaching for 8 years now as a visiting professor at FIU, and I talking to the kids that are in, 19, 20, 22. And I started to see that that was the one thing they paid attention to, climate
Mhm.
change, because they started to see this is my world 20 years from now if I want to have children and a family. And of course, climate change is all over. I was supposed to have a job this coming fall teaching at the University of Valencia for a year. I was so excited I was going to have a year to just sort of trip around Europe. There was only 2 classes. But at any rate, they were the ones that I realized really cared about this because it meant something to them. I'm in my mid 70s. I hope I'll be to 100, make it there, but whatever. It's important to them. And I started to pick up this vibe very strong. And then, of course, excuse me, paying attention to my reading. I have a subscription to the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank, and of course the Economist. And I'm reading where there's a lot of people that don't want to hear about climate change. And I would say to them, doesn't make a difference whether you think it's man-made or not. It's
Mhm.
here, not going away. So I placed it 5 years in the future. And I know that migration is a terrible situation. As a matter of fact, I'm just reading a piece in the New York Times earlier today about how about migration. It's mostly economic migration, but because if you do again reading and what I study and what I read, what's of interest to me, Africa itself is the world is shrinking rivers, shrinking water reserves, and this is forcing this migration. Some of it's just strictly economic migration. I would say that the book does not focus as much on Latin America because having lived there for 12 years, I know that that's much more of an economic thing. And yes, to a degree, it's now become very political. Obama, whether you like Obama or not, a lot of people throw stones at this guy. But as an economist, I can say that he brought this country back from the precipice. People had no idea what was going to happen and how bad it was. We had one of our investors in Global Emed was Disney, and I remember when we were selling obviously to the poor people, but receivables were very difficult. We had 90 days set up, and that was very workable. But after 120 and 150 and 180 and 210, you got to keep manufacturing. The orders keep coming in. So people don't really grasp what Obama did. I'm saying, look, he made some mistakes, but at the end of the day, as an economist, he brought us back from the precipice. So when I go back to that scenario with the sea sanctuary, I said to myself, well, food insecurity is becoming a big thing.
Oh
And
my gosh, yeah, it's getting pretty bad. I got to say that, and of course, how bad is it getting to, and how does this tie into the seed sanctuary coming up in 2030? It's like, oh my gosh, was it 5 years from now or something? It's like I think we better plan, guys, and how we're gonna do it. We'll find out with Ken Peters. But first, to listen to the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com, powered by SoundCloud Studios. Visit online at SoundCloudStudios.com for all your needs. Look at a professional website without breaking your budget. Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today, 1 800 303 3960. That's 1 800 303 3960, or email to support at sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show, get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios, take your image to the next level. Also, time to give official shout out to our official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Molson Zia. If you love fast-paced mysteries, you'll love Missing by me and Molson Zia, available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing is fast-paced and intriguing with an unforgettable twist. Takes place in 4 countries, 2 strangers, 1 target, where truth is illusion and those who love you first go missing. It's available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing by me and Molson Zia has gotten great reviews. And Eve 11 endorsed by Howard celebrities, including Joanna Cassidy, Forrest Riley, and many others. So grab your copy today. Virgo's Missing by me and Molson Zia, available on Amazon. Coming soon, Missing 2 by me and Molson Zia, double suspense, double the fun. Check it out on Amazon. Also, the Mike Wagner Show is brought to you by Sweet Psalmist by Serena Wagner, based on the life of David, including 30 exquisite paintings and King David's Psalms. The Sweet Psalmist gives a new perspective on the life of David through the Psalms he wrote, his time as a shepherd where it started, and complicated your turbulent relationship with King Saul. It's a story of love, betrayal, repentance, hope, and more. Check out The Sweet Psalmist by Serena Wagner on Amazon. Keyword Sweet Psalmist, Serena Wagner. Also brought to you by the Sensei Swing. Eric Diamond was his latest release, All of Me, featuring the title track, I've Got a New Heartache, Bring Me Sunshine, and more. Eric is a multi-award winning artist, inducted into numerous Hall of Fames, entertainer and album of the year, and will be releasing a new CD soon. Check out the amazing Eric Diamond at ericdiamondmusic.com and follow on Facebook, YouTube, and all music platforms worldwide. Check out the Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, 40 podcast platforms, heard 100 countries, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, iHeartRadio, Apple, and more. Make sure you take this with you on every mobile device. For great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com. Check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast, T-shirts, pop sockets, throw pillows, tote bags, hoodies. Makes great gifts 24/7. Go to Amazon.com. Check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast. And for more great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com/me and Molson Zia. Great books, merchandise 24/7. Also, support the Mike Wagner Show on Anchor FM, PayPal, and the MikeWagnerShow.com. We're here with the amazing author, distinguished economist, and biotech expert who turns his expertise to fiction writing. Ken Peters here on the Mike Wagner Show. Before we continue with the Seed Sanctuary, and what's going to be happening in 2030 with the food supply and everything else. You also wrote some other books. We cover offshore. There's also The Cure, Cuba's Nuclear Pinata, and the Haji Intercept. Tell us more about those.
Okay, real quick, Joe, just to come back to say, I can't wait to go on Amazon and buy that thing, Missing. It sounds just my type of adventure. That, yes.
There you go. Amazon.com/me and Molson Zia. You can check it out right now. So this is how it's spelled right there. So me and Molson Zia. So I'm sure you put that in your head right there.
I will definitely be picking that one up. Anyway, before I go back just to finish Seed Sanctuary, I had just basically, because of my background, I thought, well, this in theory, the what if concept, we come up with a super agri seed that will have a fourfold cycle, and the 4 main crops, and potatoes and rice and the starch things. And people are dying all the time there. I always love when people say, but they're GMOs. What difference does it make?
Exactly. Everybody got so worked up on GMOs, non-GMOs, everything like that.
Right,
some
right,
blame
right.
Monsanto. Some people say, thank you, Monsanto. It's a mixed bag right there.
Namaste. True, it's true. When you're looking at people who have a very difficult life, on the issue, I'll finish with Seed Sanctuary before I go to some of the others, that you're really I'm looking at, as I was writing the book, the idea that people were going hungry. It wasn't just a matter of economic migration. But as I had learned when I first started the business, we were going to the emerging markets, as you know, as I said before. And so we were involved with a lot of poor countries and poor people. And we were quite successful until 2008, which turned us around. But having said that, I knew in the early 1999, 2000, when they were converting the euro, the Deutschmark to the franc, the euro. And I said, I don't know if this is ever going to work because, they're so, I forget what's going on today. You're a Frenchman, you're a German, you're a Belgian. This is how people identify themselves. However, from an economic standpoint of view, the common market worked very good for them. Unfortunately,
right.
Bojo from England and Brexit
E-
sort of screwed that whole thing up.
Exactly, you're right. And I was going to chime in as well too. It's no longer about selling by the pound, selling by the yen, selling by the Deutschmark, selling by the franc, or selling by the leo or whatever. It's almost like that. Some of these markets took a hit, and I think the biggest one that really took a hit was the drachma in Greece before the euro came around. Greece was one of the wealthiest European
Yeah,
countries. Since they went, it's like everything went
yeah.
down. My God.
Well, they were the precursor, but it was interesting that these different things that I get, like from the International Monetary Fund of the World Bank, that I read that the poor Greeks, they wanted to be part of the euro, etc. I don't want to digress too much, but everything that they were getting loans from Germany, 90% was going to pay debt. The whole thing was all shouldn't have been like that. Anyway, so at the end of the day, I decided, well, what if there was a company? What if? And what if they did this? And then, of course, I followed a similar scenario to the South Africa one in that they want to make sure that because obviously as Frenchmen and Germans, well, you see with the AFD right now, Germany, that people are very nationalistic, and I understand the economics overrule many things, but at the end of the day, I'm a German. That's it. I'm Austrian, whatever. So at any rate, the idea was for in the book for them to go and hire a group and they would contaminate the seeds. At the final trial, I won't tell you how it ends, but there's two plots going on. It's too much detail to tell you. Just to say that in the Golden Quill Award, they said Peters masterfully mixes these two plots together. It came out very good. Came out very good. Anyway, I said the migration is going to get worse, and popularism and the fascism going to be worse. So that's the book. Has a great ending, and after my friend read it, the one who actually was a sponsor to assist me with the investment, his name is, I'll give him a little plug, Les Stein. He and his wife, big readers. And he said, Peters, you need to be writing books. So at any rate, after he read that one, he said, Ken, you got to have a second and a third. So I'm in the midst of working on the third right now called The Red Sea Rendition, which sort of follows the whole plot to the Middle East is drying up. The Israelis are the pariah of the world.
Hmm.
And there's a new party. Bibi Netanyahu's gone, and they decide that they're going to open a massive. The Israelis are known for their technology. Open up a massive desalination plant at the mouth of the Red Sea, and Djibouti, Somalia, Egypt, Jordan. Everyone will benefit. So it's hard to be angry, even if the other pariah of the world when they're going to supply fresh water to you. So anyway, it's a very exciting book, and he he gets set up with a false flag with this gal because they want him to fail on this mission because he believes that we need more people on the ground. All the
Hmm.
people we have in the intelligence office now, they're all 90s kids that grew up with Xboxes. They think everything can be.
Oh yeah, give them to them. They can press controls. It's almost like we have a brand new generation rather play video games and get out and enjoy the real world.
Yeah. So similar story in that they go and they bring it in the lab just before the final trials. The WHO's over the moon about it, and they contaminate the seeds. And then the rest of the story goes on. But this girl, that's the false flag. They set her up with. She's a nobody, but she's going to be the ears on the ground. But this other mission takes place. He's got to depart, and the equivalent of this Mossad CIA guy says she can't handle this. He said, "I've got to go," and she'll close the deal. So the next book ends with this lovely scene. That ends with a lovely scene. And my friend said, "You got to do one more, Peters, one more." And one of my favorite writers, sadly passed away, Stig Larsson, did that. The girl with the dragon tattoo and the other two books. But at any rate, that's the story. But I'll go back to after the cure. Uh, in 1982, 83, while I was with Abbott still, medical, I don't care, everything's for profit. That's our problem. I
Oh,
often
it's so prevalent, unbelievable. I have people on my show talking about the healthcare industry where it's not curing people, it's almost like, profit over everything else. They'll give them medicine, 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 money, money, money. Side effects
100%.
like this. Yeah, it's just like what? You have the side effect, take this, this, this. You have a side effect from this, 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 take this, 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 and this. Ching, ching, ching. It won't get better.
Exactly. So at any rate, I said I always believed myself of living in Europe and especially Scandinavia that yes, people pay more taxes, but you know what? Everyone's taken care of to a certain level. So anyway, there was some equipment that Abbott had said, I don't want to get in trouble here, just say it was supposed to be destroyed, and I didn't. I said there are poor people in the country we can sell this to. So Cuba, it was 94. That's Cuba's nuclear pinata. Uh, Castro lost his benefactor. Russia was collapsing. And I wanted to go see Cuba for myself in the raw. And we had a guy that was doing this deal for us up out of Canada. And I was able to get a visa with my American passport and fly into to Cuba. And we were there for 5 days during the installation. And we had minders who always watching us. There's always people, Americans, that love to chat with you if you have the moment. So I learned a lot, and then I had this what if thing. What if, thinking about technology today, that when the missiles of October went back to Russia in exchange for the Khrushchev and the Turkey thing, that just what if today they have the detection systems. It's not like 1962, 61.
I
What
remember,
if they
yeah,
were,
was it Bay of Pigs or something like
yeah,
that,
yeah,
where US
yeah.
almost got blown up or something?
Right. So what if there were 6 missiles that went back and they're all piled together? No one's able to check the validation of what's nuclear, what's not. And Castro hides 6 warheads. His benefactor's gone with Russia. He's got no money. And again, my stuff's always got biotech in there. And the US he says to Clinton, he says, we need money for this. And Clinton says, you can have anything you want if you democratize. No, can't do that. So they come up with a plan which would allow them to, over cover of darkness, get in there through various sources, and they find out where they are. But in the meantime, Castro tells them right away, don't play games with me, because if we've taken, book opens up, the first chapter really holds your attention. They're planting a nuclear weapon in deep storage in Miami. And having worked out of Miami, and I understood how record keeping in those, not that good. So at any rate, that's the blackmail. U.S. says we'll give you what you want. We're going to give you biotech. It's going to increase your exports, your pineapples. I don't know if you know about these things. Real quick, flavor saver tomatoes. Same thing with strawberries, where when they harvest them, they put inside the genetic pool, where once they break the stem, you got like 12 days before it comes active again, reanimated.
Interesting.
Yeah, they call it the flavor saver tomato. We don't even know. You and I don't seem to care about GMOs. I say, hey, I like unbruised tomatoes. So at any rate, that was my what if part of the story. And they break in. They obviously get the weapons, and now it's a race against time at the end to find where that bomb is, the nuclear warhead in Miami. So that's the cure. I'm not the cure, the nuclear pinata, because
Oh,
of
the
the
nuclear pinata. That's right. And of course,
yeah, yeah, and it was a great book too. I really am so sorry I didn't. I was reading some reviewing questions from another show today, and they asked me about certain questions, and I just said, my game, based on what I've seen my whole life and traveled and lived around the world. Obviously, after the first 10 years, I did get to go to the Western world. But at any rate, I thought to myself, well, here's a good story. And because I'd been there, I had so much raw material about what it's like living there and the whole thing. So that was that story. And of course, they race, and it's the ending, and there's a woman involved. And although I let that woman go at the end, they just part sort of friends. But
Mm-hmm.
I allow her to be a hero. Now, one of the things in the Seed Sanctuary is somebody who reads chapters for me, big reader, and she said to me, Ken, why don't you take and bring her to the forefront here and make her a bit of a heroine? And I said, oh, interesting. And so many people said they loved that part, but suddenly she took the lead. And as a
Nice.
guy, not being chauvinistic, usually that's not how I'm writing. So at any rate, that was that book, and it was Race Till the End, and etc. And then the next book I wrote was The Hodge Intercept.
The Hodge intercept. That's what I thought. Okay.
And I opened the book story up with two two different concentration camps, and the Americans asked people. I kept on thinking about the Eisenhower thing. Record this. Let nobody ever forget what happened here.
I remember he said that. Yeah, record this, record everything. Yeah.
At any rate, in two camps, there's one couple that's a very secular couple. They meet and they're there for 3 weeks together. They build a little bit of a bond, and then in the other camp, very observant Jews that really everything is Hashem up in the sky, and they end up after they do their service for the Americans, they get to go to Israel, and by accident, they end up on the same kibbutz,
Oh, wow.
and then eventually they both have sons. Well, the observant one has 7 kids, but the
Oh my
secular one,
gosh.
they only had 2. They knew what it cost to have a kid. You have children there, Mike?
Yes, I do. I got 4 grown ones, and my daughter's a terrific singer in Bismarck, and I have 3 creative boys back in Chicago, and one of them is actually going to Northern Illinois to be a rock star in
Oh,
archaeology and anthropology.
I
So he's
like
like
that.
Indiana Jones. Yes.
My favorite is when I talk about history. I love history. The idea of I get so caught up in these PBS pieces when I'm watching on television that ancient history, things and what took place in the evolution from the time of the Bible, the pyramids. But anyway, going back to the Hodge intercept, so they have their children, they grow up together, and I stole some of this. I say stole, like everyone's got high school good buddies, and
Oh,
we were
yes.
a bit of a prankster, and so this guy was a good buddy of mine, and we did all sorts of crazy things, picking up girls, whatever it was. And then they have to serve their 3-year mandatory, and they're in the IDF, and now they both decide they want to join the Mossad. And one of them, his attitude is the secular was, Israel deserves a place of safety. That's it. And the other one was, this is the promised land, just what you see going on the West Bank.
Hmm.
Uh, anyway, so so I allow that chasm to continue, but they're both in the Mossad now. And my brother was an investment banker for most of his career, and I learned a lot through him about the fact that the company went public. I was leeching off of people giving me information, but I learned a lot from him, and so the secular guy gets a job with the Israelis infiltrating technologies, and he's in Germany, and they find this tech. Very early in the 80s when you could hold that thing and you could hear through walls, whatever.
I remember. Yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah. And so the as the story plot line goes and et cetera, that the technology that the Israelis have is so amazing at times. And they had this whole, which I learned from about Greenmail and my brother, about how a plug for Barry Peters, great guy. But that this is how the Israelis would work. They would buy the way into the company and thought something was good. They'd eventually buy the whole thing. That's it, take the whole thing over. So in the end, as the book progresses, the not the secular one, the observant religious one, after he comes back to this assignment, is a very exciting assignment, the escape from Syria. He's there stealing it's the Marburg virus, and I just called it the Delta virus because I try not to steal too much. But I certainly know about these viruses, so in any event, it's a very exciting mission. The whole chapter dedicated, the way I built it was fabulous. But in the meantime, that's the author speaking to you. But in the meantime, they come out and they get back to the Mossad. They call that the institute where everyone works. And I think the second day he's working late at night, and a Katyusha rocket hits his house and kills his wife and his twin daughters. And I
Ouch.
had spent a lot of time to build you the flavor of his wife and the whole Sabbath, and we don't do anything, whatever it is. I really built that. He's devastated, but he's still got his. He's sent to the war. That's where the when you lose it, they send you to. And before I go any further, if you want to break for a commercial, I'll tell you. But
Well, you know something? I think we'll get to that part in a minute. And you also had like a seeds program that's tied into Seed Sanctuary. We'll find out just with a minute with Ken Peters. You listen to the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com, powered by Soundquip Studios. Brought to you by official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Molson's The Missing. The Sweet Psalmist by Serena Wagner, based on the life of David and Moore. Amazon.com, keyword Sweet Psalmist Serena Wagner, and provides Sensei of Swing. Eric Diamond with All of Me, ericdiamondmusic.com. We'll be back with the multi-talented Ken Peters of the Seed Sanctuary after this time out. We're back with author Ken Peters of the Seed Sanctuary here on the Mike Wagner Show. And before we continue on, we asked a question about what's going to happen in 2030 with the seed and everything like that. You also outline a program which addresses food security. What's going to happen in 2030? What's going to happen in 2025? Maybe in between that and beyond, or some of the climate challenges of the seeds program. There's 5 of them. Tell us more about that. Starting with the S word. Support.
With the seed, or am I staying with the Hodge?
We can get to Hodge in just a minute, but we can tie it with the seeds. How's that? Maybe the Hodge seeds or something like that. So
no, they were just super agrogenetically altered. Just that's why I was explaining to you about flavor saver tomatoes and the so as an economist, I knew that there's when you look at the GDP, the component parts from consumption, investment, and capital growth, and then imports and exports, that trade balance. And I knew that this was one thing they could sell cash drawn. If I can increase your exports, you do whatever you want to do. Okay, so of course they want to get the missiles and break in there. But at the end of the day, the Seed Sanctuary, I couldn't have even impossibly predict. That's where this third trilogy book was, the idea that maybe this is the way out. The Israelis got to turn from being the pariah to a savior of all these countries losing water, etc. But the seeds were very, very factual. As a matter of fact, it says that Peters was in the Golden Quill Award. It says that he said people want to have reality along with fiction.
right.
And he really delivers it to you as Michael Crichton would, with a timeline and possible things could be done. So in any event, at the Seed Sanctuary, they developed the seed, and of course the bad guys want to contaminate it, and it takes a while to alert the world, stop the distribution of don't this, because everyone's going to go back to Europe, from Europe back to the countries they came from, and the Europeans, the liberals. I'm a very moderate, middle of the guy on the road, but the liberals decide we're going to pay for them to get them out of here, and we'll send them back. We'll set them up, but then the crop's going to fail, obviously, a year. And now the right-wing people are starting to take over the seats, which is a reality today. That they say, but the liberals say, no, we got to bring them back because it was a failure. And they'll say there's no more money left in the ECB. The European banks broke. So that's forcing this situation. So at any rate, going back to the climate change, this job I was going to have in Spain, I'm talking to a student. I only teach foreign international students. And I asked this girl, I knew she was from Valencia. I said, so, I got this thing coming up. I'm very excited about it. She said, well, I said, how are they working between the federal government and the state government? She said, not good, Ken. She said, if you don't know that the entire railroad was washed away, not the entire, but many parts of the line were washed away by mudslides between Barcelona and Valencia. That's the whole entire east coast of Spain. So,
oh my gosh,
all these things got to feed in, conversation with people, ideas get planted. And I decided this was because this was a reality. As I said, one of the things I picked up from my students was that they talk about the news. They're somewhere between the Daily Show and Fox. I can't even begin to tell you. But they all care about climate change, and I use that as sort of the backdrop to force the issue with political issues with, with food insecurity creating those.
Hmm.
And again, it's part of that raw observation. I was so lucky, Mike. Everything that I write, like Anthony says, Ken, it's so organic. You were there. It was
Oh
happening
yeah,
for
and
you.
definitely organic indeed. Of course, the seeds program, so supporting sustainable agriculture. Of course,
Yeah.
educating communities, empowering innovation, and of course, diversity of food sources. And lastly, strengthening the global collaboration. That is the final part of the seed
Oh,
as well.
absolutely frightening to think that I heard today that Trump blurted out that they never should have started the war. I'm going, what planet am I on? Yeah. I will
What was
predict
I born
this.
in Ukraine? Was I born in Afghanistan? You wonder
Yeah,
about that.
yeah.
Or was it Canada, the soon to be 51st state, which I hope
Oh,
God they don't. No, no, no.
it's
And
never
I'm
going to
Gulf
happen because
America. No, no, no.
Canada has its own culture. They would never. They would never. At any rate, the book came out very good, The Seed Sanctuary. And what I found most important was that one of the questions I was answering for another show interview I'm going to have was the idea that what will be the future, as we were just saying, we don't know, but it may be very dismal. But in the meantime, one thing is for sure: these kids, because I in reading, answering these questions, I said, "Who's your audience?" I said, "Well, I spent a lot of money, a lot of time. I had a social media gal I hired, and a lot of money on Facebook. It gets very expensive, and that's when I decided to say, stop paying her money." Go to this literary agent who's got 32 years of contacts and industry, and obviously I'm so pleased to be here. But
Mm-hmm.
you're one of the people he knew his they knew to go, let's check out Mike Wagner. Maybe he'll take
There
it.
you go. And you know what? If you want to be sustainable, you can plant the seeds, t-shirts, pop sockets, throw pillows, tote bags, hoodies. And I'm sure this is made of pleasant material that's never contaminated. You wouldn't even dare contaminate a pillow,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. And of
Well,
course,
I think based
we
on
got
this show
cotton
and
in these
meeting you,
shirts and everything. And
yeah. Well, I've got
yeah.
so many hoodies, but based on meeting you today and the enjoyment of this conversation, I will look forward to getting a pillow and having
Oh
that look.
yeah. Well, you know something. I'll be glad to give you information. In the meantime, where can people find the Seed Sanctuary and all your works at, Ken?
Yeah, everything is on my website. It's a beautiful website. I modeled it again, cheating, after Follett, and after I went up and looked at all these authors and let me see how they present themselves. Anyway, I it's authorkenpeters.com, and you can read the summaries and all the different books. And soon, I hope that within the year it'll be out there. One of the things that Anthony had said to me, Moral Communication, said that we're not going to publish this book, Ken. We're going to use this as the bite to get a Simon and Schuster or a Penguin or a Random House to nip. Say what's he got that's fresh. Do that. So at any rate, it was a great book. It was a great story, and again, because it was so real, especially when she told me that day about that the railroad had been the east coast of Spain, the floods, and of course political discord exists everywhere. But the feds, the federal government, and the state of Valencia couldn't seem to get things working out. And I said, "Oh my God, Peters, I hope you're going to have this job in the fall."
And of course, Spicy, what's going to happen in 5 years with the food
Yeah.
situation too? It's like what's going to happen
Well,
by
I do
2030?
I do believe that there should sometimes when I watch these and I don't watch the news anymore. I really 5 minutes the max I'll do. I try. This is very disturbing, but I have to believe even when those people say to me that climate change is man-made. I don't care what it is. It is coming. It's real. So I believe that there'll be some sort of a coming together. I said to someone today on the phone, they said to me about the Trump stupid thing about why did he start the war? I said, you know what? My guess is the settlement will be because Trump is so tight with Putin. By the way, in the book, The Seed Sanctuary, I spelt it Putin. And people kept on saying, did you do that on purpose? Was that a spelling? I said, no, 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 no. I don't want his name in my book. So at any rate, I believe that the final settlement will be is that the Ukrainians will accept that the territory has been seized. It's not no longer theirs. They'll give up the 20%. But the one thing that they want to get into NATO. If they get into NATO, that's their guaranteed protection versus these other guarantees that could be worthless. So I think that'll be the settlement. We'll see. Hard to
Mhm.
predict the future, Mike.
It does do it. In fact, I don't even know what's going to happen tomorrow, too. What am I have for
Right, right.
coffee, breakfast, or dinner, or anything like that? And of course,
I know.
never know. Yeah. In fact, I admit I forgot what I have for breakfast this morning. It's like the
Yeah.
best.
So anyway, the idea of these questions I was answering, I was trying to say to myself, nobody knows what's going to be in the future, but one thing is for sure, there'll have to be some kind of coming together, and it will happen. I don't know how it's going to happen or unfold, but I think it'll coming together. And the world can't. The only thing I can think about while the world is ever together is that Independence Day, where they're being invaded from outside. Suddenly, everyone says, "We are Earth." So,
We're
sort of wake up.
early. Yes. It's like, are we too early for this? And we're getting ready for another one. I'm sure fireworks are going to explode anyway.
Yes, yes, no doubt.
Yeah.
So I believe that there'll be settlements, and because Trump is, after all, a transactionalist. I really worry more about Elon than Trump. Trump is a transactionalist. What do I
Oh,
get out of this
yes.
deal? You
Yes.
know. Uh,
Right.
so
Hmm.
at any rate, going back to the Hajj to finish it up because that brought me to the seed sanctuary, and eventually I'm in the midst now of this Red Sea rendition. But and the Hajj. He's obviously still got his Mossad badge, but this is the best twist on the story was that he's in there for 30 days and all the tranquilizers, whatever, and he has this physical, and the doctor, he comes after the physical, he says to him, he says, because these things happen. We were just talking about medicine, this whole, I don't know if you remember that old movie with George C. Scott where they cut off the wrong leg, you know.
Oh, yeah. I remember that one. Oh, my gosh.
So I decide that he's having the physical. After that, it comes in. The doctor says, the clinical doctor says, take a seat here. He said, I want to tell you, you need to get your affairs in order and rapidly. Maybe you have 3 to 6 months. You have pancreatic cancer, and he's in such discord anyway from having lost his family that I built this psychological thing of these very observant Jews, and he goes back into the lab. And I've spent time in these level 3 and level 4 labs. I've never been in a level 4 lab where you have to be suited up with a separate oxygen hose, but I've stood outside and I've seen how it's all done. So he steals a virus, and now he's going to detonate the virus. It's an aerosol during the Hajj, killing thousands of Arabs. And
Hmm.
while I was finishing the last chapter, which was, people always say, how'd you come up with that ending? I said, I said, I was reading the book and I'm writing the book and I'm saying, Peters, this is too linear. Everyone knows where we're going here. And
Right.
I was in the gym on the elliptical and it hit me. And I said,
Uh-huh.
you gotta have a right turn because
Oh,
people now know
yeah.
where you're going. And so I had a right turn. Can't tell you about it. It's the best part of the ending. And that's what you do. So everything to say that everything I do and write is organic because I was
Uh-huh.
living there. I saw that all happen. That's all.
Oh, my gosh. That had to be. Oh, my gosh. That is so amazing. So,
Well,
yes.
it was
Mm.
enlightening. I couldn't, when I came back, my first assignment down in South America with my boys were when we came back, they were like 3.5 and 6.5. And I remember that we would have conversations at dinner, and Sloan, the older one, would say, Dad, people have no idea. They have no idea. Yes, they go on a trip to Paris, they go on this cruise. And the other day I did some research, and I did not know this, but 70% of all Americans do not have passports.
Oh, my goodness. And you thought the so-called illegals were the ones guilty. I think we're just as guilty as well. So I
Yeah,
think you
yeah,
really
yeah,
brought
yeah.
up a
But I
great
think,
point, and hopefully, I don't know, maybe something will start. You never know. So,
yeah, I don't know how much time we have to go, but
well,
those
well,
are,
well,
go
actually,
ahead.
I just want to say first of all that we love to have you back on, Ken. Of course, you told us to go to authorkenpeters.com with amazing Ken Peters and the Mike Wagner Show with the Seed Sanctuary and just a few more things. What else can we expect from you 2025 and beyond?
Well, this is the third in the trilogy. I will go back to now writing separate stories. I've got so much. It's like telling you about my time with Fauci, although it's only 2 evenings with a glass of wine. But
Uh huh.
you meet so many incredible people along the way that have dedicated their lives for this, that, etc. And people that start foundations, and then you learn in the layers of the foundations how distant they are. Bill Gates, wonderful guy, and all he's doing and whatnot. But we had thought to ourselves, all of our tests were these rapid 1.1 pass fail. And we had thought to ourselves, I know that Gates had just given $4 million for this company that had a little box, quite amazing, that did these HIV tests.
Uh huh.
But Africa lacked, again, as an economist, I'm saying, never going to work there. You need biomedical engineers to repair it. Number two, you need uninterrupted power supply. You can't have
Oh,
surgeons. And number three, you need trained, qualified people to run these things. And they had them in clinics in very disparate kind of areas. And I said, so we approached the Gates Foundation. It's the last little story. I'll let you go on this, but
that
this,
that that sounds great. And by the way, if you have a
yeah.
new book out there, we'll resume all that. And who do you consider biggest influence in your career?
Who do I think what is the
Your,
biggest?
your biggest influence in your career?
If for me,
Mm-hmm.
I think Michener, where I started out the program. I
Okay.
loved the Covenant. I loved Hawaii. I loved Caribbean because they were real good fiction stories, but he gave you so much history that made me feel like I was there. And that's what I try and do when I write my books. I think there's a video I did and it says, when you read a Ken Peters novel, it's almost as if you were there.
And I feel like I've been there already. And of course, we'll have you on before 2030 for sure and to keep up the Sea Sanctuary. And lastly, what's the best advice you can give to anybody at this point
Give advice to anyone on what?
in general?
In general, see
In
the
general,
world.
not the general, in general.
Experience life and talk to different people, whether they're of your ilk or not, but try and understand and get points of view where you can see where the disconnect is so much in the world. Of course, the internet, which was supposed to be a boon, and not that it isn't, but it created such, there are people that are doing these blogs and whatnot. They're not reporters, they're not journalists, they didn't get trained.
Well,
Uh,
they're blah, blah, blah. They call it blog, blog, blog. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. So that's about it. I see we're at 10 o'clock.
But well, that's okay. You know something? Just want to say I had a great conversation with you. I'd love to have you on. We're over with Ken Peters here on the Mike Wagner Show of the book, The Seed Sanctuary. Ken, a very big thank you for your time. You've been just absolutely amazing. I definitely learned a lot from you. Wish I was with you at the time, maybe 10, 20, 30 years ago. We'll definitely have you back before 2030. And once again, what's
oh,
your website? How do people contact you? Where can people purchase or check out your book, especially at the Seed Sanctuary?
it's my pleasure to be here, Mike. I
And
can't thank you enough.
and what's your website again?
Oh, author kenpeters.com.
All right,
That's
we'll
it.
certainly check that out. Once again, Ken, a very big thank you for your time. I really love your journey. We got to do it again soon before 2030. And you definitely have a great future.
Oh,
Keep up the great work.
2026 when this book is ready.